brought him out, delivered him, and we believe it's for a purpose. This testimony, share the story of how this came about, and how that God has brought him to where he is, and also not just a yay, look at me, God pulled me up, but I believe that your testimony is to reach somebody that today is struggling with these thoughts and these suicide attempts, and you being an overcomer gives hope to somebody else. So tell us your story, David.
Okay, the very first time this happened to me, where it actually come across as suicide as a thought, it was in 6 months after my first accident, and or my head-on collision, my last accident that I had 3 skull fractures and lost memory again. After that head-on collision, I was working, and I was laying out on an asphalt parking lot, and about 8 hours went by, and I had no memory. The last thing I remember, I was just pulling my striping machine out to stripe this parking lot, and the next thing I remember, I'm putting my striper up. It's dark, and 6, 7, 8 hours had gone by, and I already painted the whole place. Did it wrong.
Did you take pictures of that?
No. It really freaked me out. I'd been blacked out before from doing drugs or alcohol. That's not something you enjoy. When that happens, you come to and you have no memory of what you did last night. But that's due to partying and excessive amounts of alcohol and drugs. But this happened with none of that involved. It was just a normal day for me, and I had been doing good after my accident. I had felt like I was recovering.
So there was a short circuit in your brain due to your multiple head injuries,
Yes.
Concussions and so forth, that just literally wiped you out, and you was a functioning human being other than you had no clue where you were or what you were doing.
Right, and these concussions began at 15 years old. So here I'm at 34 years old at this time, and so I've had a good 15, 20 years of concussions stacked on top of each other. I had double digits of concussions in my teenage years from playing sports and getting into fights. But at this point, as soon as that hit me, I believe it took me about 2 or 3 months that I over and over thought of, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have lived through my car accident. This is a trick to destroy me, my family, my name. And I had been a good father. I'd done a lot of crazy stuff in my life, but nothing that I had damaged myself so bad or my family so bad that what I was imagining was, what if I killed a whole family or something during this moment? What if I went and did something terrible? I wasn't in control of myself. You know, I striped my parking lot. I did what my job was, but I did it wrong. Yeah, I ruined the whole asphalt parking lot because it was wrong. And so it really freaked me out. And suicide was the option for me, that I had to weigh it out and pros and cons, and there was just more evidence inside of me that made it clear I should be dead, not alive. I'm better off to be dead and them deal with the pain that I'm dead than if I did something alive that I would never do. You know, if I did something that I'm not consciously aware of that's against everything about who I am, it destroys me. So at that time I began planning, and I planned it out really intricate. I spent my family were all going on a family vacation together, leaving town. That all lived in the same town as me, that in Pensacola, Florida. And so I chose that at that time to not go anywhere and stay there, and that was when I was going to kill myself. And so I planned it out to the very day. I even planned out, I wrote every single person in my family a letter explaining why and what I was doing and how sorry I was that I had to do it this way, that it was a long process that I had to live But the closer I got to the day that I had planned to do it, the more peace I got. And that's what I wanted. I want to make sure that anyone out there that has loved ones, listen, you don't really see a depressed individual a lot of times. You really don't see a suicidal individual. There's moments in time when people cry out for help when they're suffering, and that's a cry out for help, and you need to acknowledge it, go to them and help them and get them some help. But the suicide that I felt and the ones that I've spoken to that have come through this kind of thing, it's a surprise. It's not, and the people that actually pulled it off and succeeded at it, they didn't leave signs that this was going to happen. They didn't let anyone know that they were struggling. And so that's something I want family members and friends to be aware of. Concussions, post-concussion syndrome cause this. After a certain amount of time and a certain amount of concussions, this happens. And you need to be aware of it. If your friends or your family or your children have had concussions, watch them and educate yourself on what is going to attack them. So my story for this is incredible. It's mind-boggling what God's done for me, and now to find the purpose behind that drives me. It gives me a calling that I feel I'm fulfilling. It's fulfilling my destiny, my purpose, and what God's allowed to happen in my life for a purpose to help others with. So the day this happened, this is going to be a little graphic when it comes to drugs, so watch your children if you don't want them to hear this. I'd gotten a 8-ball of Peruvian cocaine. That's 3.5 grams of basically the purest cocaine that you can get. They call it the pearl, the fish scale, the flake, whatever. It's strong, and it's not mixed down with a bunch of anestetol. So I had 2 grams of that, and I loaded it into a syringe, and I was going to shoot that directly into my veins. So that's enough to kill a good 5 to 10 people if each individual split it up and shot it in their vein. So that was my very first suicide attempt. That was number 1. I had a backup of 75 Loratab 10 milligram pain pills. The acetaminophen in each one of those pills, 500 milligrams, was enough at 45 of those, or 75 of those, to kill me 2 or 3 times itself, just the Tylenol inside that. Plus it had 10 milligrams of hydrocodone in it, in each pill. Then I had 45 Xanax bars, which are 2 milligram anxiety medication. It shuts you down, it makes you and that's enough to kill 5 to 10 people, those pills alone. So I took a shot of the cocaine and 2 milligrams all at once. At that point, I went blind and I lost my hearing, and I hit the floor, and that's all I felt. Boom. And then it felt like I was in hell, like my bone marrow was boiling, and all I could hear was my heart. And I can't tell the timing or how long I laid there like that, but every second, millisecond that went by, felt like my heart was just getting ready to blow and it was over. Then I lost consciousness. So the rest of the story from this point comes from the guy that found me. And this is a very powerful story because this man doesn't know God. He's never been in church. He's never heard the voice of God. He's never had an experience like this before in his life. And so he contacted my family while I was in the hospital. It took me 2 weeks to get out. But while I was in there, he said, when he gets out, can I come over and tell you guys what happened to me and what I saw? And so when I got out of the hospital, this man came over and shared this story with us. And this is what he told me. When I wrote everyone a letter, the day that I committed suicide, I sent him an email that said, my family and I are all out of town for 2 weeks, and I will be leaving, I'm leaving on this day and will be back at a certain time. And and this was, I believe, I sent him this letter. I believe it was, I attempted suicide on a Monday or Tuesday. And when I sent him that email, it stated in the email, I believe I left my garbage can in the garage. Would you please come over on Thursday? Garbage picks up on Friday, and get my garbage out so it doesn't smell up the house. That was my letter to him to save my family from smelling me and finding me decaying in the house. So when that happened, he said he read it, and immediately something hit him, and said he heard the voice said, "Go over there now." And he's not. I never even spoke. I've been in that townhouse for 7 months at this point. Never spoke to him once. Sent him the rent in the mail, and never heard anything from him. Never even talked to him. I signed the lease, and that was the only time I met him. He said so he immediately went over there.
What are the chances? And we know it's not chance, but what are the odds of him reading that email at that given time? You and I both know we get emails all the time on our phone and our computer and iPad, and sometimes we just brush by them and say, "Oh, I'll read it at supper tonight," or I'll read it right before I go to bed. Or I mean, it's easy to take an email and just push it to the side and say.
This was 2009 when flip phones were still going, so you didn't really check your mail on your phone anymore either.
Yeah, it was an effort for him to dig into that.
Yeah. So he said it was within hours. So he found me. He came over immediately, and this happened in the morning time. I woke up, fresh start. Boy, I'm going to town. I'm going to kill myself. And I was at peace when I did this. So when he got to the house, he saw my truck outside, just like I said it was going to be there. He went to put the key in the door, and he's fighting himself. He's never walked into any of his tenants' place, but he said this thing just kept pushing him. So he put the key in there, opened the door, and when he opened the door, he said he saw the kitchen light on. And he thought that was weird. So he said my name, no answer. And he walked in, and when he walked in and saw the kitchen floor, there was a needle on the floor. There was 2 empty bottles of pills laying on the floor. And then he heard something, scared him. He heard something in the garage. And he walked through the pantry and opened the door. And there I was, standing on a 6-foot ladder with a noose around my neck, which had already burned my neck in 2 big spots because I had jumped, and the knot had broken from the beam, and it obviously, I don't know if I hung there for.
Must not have been a good Boy Scout.
I'm just not good at killing myself, I suppose. But so he said, "What are you doing?" Frantic, and my response to him, he said, when I turned and looked at him, my eyes were rolled back in my head, completely white, and he said that dawned on me right then and there. How in the world is he doing that? I couldn't see. There was no pupils or anything. It was all white. They were rolled all the way back in my head. So he immediately said, "What are you doing?" He said, I turned and looked at him, really calm and cool. I said, "I'm trying to kill myself. I've jumped off this ladder twice, and the knot's broken. Do you mind coming over here and tying the knot for me?" And at that point, I wasn't violent. It wasn't scary to him. It was funny. And so he responded, "No, I'm not. Get down off the ladder." He said, immediately I turned completely violent, and he got completely, he was scared I was going to kill him. And he didn't know what to do. He felt boxed in, because I wanted him to come tie this knot. And he said the weirdest thing that ever happened to him was this voice and this knowing of God. We know it's God. He didn't know it was God. Said, "Call your wife and let him talk to him." And so imagine that. You probably have a hard time during all this time letting me talk to Sandra when I'm crazy and out there. This guy didn't know me, and I'm killing myself and all these drugs everywhere, and he's getting this message to have your wife talk to him. He said, for some reason, I listened to it and caught her immediately. And he's like, I was in it. As I'm doing this, he's like, I'm watching myself hand you the phone to talk to my wife, and I'm going, what am I doing? What am I doing? He goes, and you grab the phone. When I put that phone up to my ear, he said, the minute I heard my wife's voice, your eyes popped down. So they rode completely out of my head, come down, and I said, yes, ma'am. And I handed him back the phone, and I sat down on the floor, put my legs up just like this, and just sat there. Didn't look at him, didn't talk, just sat there, like no emotion, nothing, and waited for the ambulance to get there. When the ambulance got there, they checked me out. I sat there, was completely cordial to them, got up, walked myself into the ambulance, sat down in the ambulance, and they drove off with me. The next part of the story is even a little more wild. When they went to check me into the hospital, of course they have my ID and they have all the information from him, and they want me to give my signature. They can't imagine that I'm on the drugs that they ended up finding, the full pill bottles empty and all the cocaine in my system. But once I got there and they wanted me to sign, I wouldn't sign it. And they said because I wouldn't sign it, because I was a suicide, it didn't matter if I signed it or not. But what it was they have to take a picture of you and get all your intake in. And I was telling them I'm Jesus. That's why I wouldn't sign it. So they took a picture of me, and we'll get to what that picture looked like later. So 10 days go by, and I'm in the psychiatric hospital. They're giving me a shot of Halidol, which is an antipsychotic. It puts an individual out that's a psychotic person. It puts them out for a good 12 to 17 hours of sleep. And then it resets the brain, and they'll come back pretty normal. I never fell asleep. 10 days straight, I never fell asleep. I walked around, and how I came to this was 10 days later, I'm walking down the aisle, or the hallway of the hospital there, and this nurse is walking this direction. Well, I'm not conscious yet. I'm just walking down the unconscious, just like I did when I was painting the asphalt. She says, "Good morning, Mr. Carson," and when she said that, here I was, and I said, "Whoa, where am I?" And she looked at me with astonishment and said, "You're serious?" I said, "Yeah, where am I?" And she told me I was in the psychiatric hospital. I'm like, what happened? She said, you tried to kill yourself. And she goes, "You told me you were going to do this. And you told me to take you and show you what you said to me and everything." So she took me straight to the nurse's station and had a book about this big of all everything. Because I was on suicide watch, the nurse not a nurse, a tech had to walk around and keep all the notes of what I'm doing, how I'm acting, where I'm at. So my routine throughout the day, I had to have a personal person walk around and watch what I did. So what they had notes on me as I came in as Jesus, never slept. They kept giving me, they said I was the most calm. They couldn't believe that I had committed suicide. They couldn't believe all the drug. They did the urine and the blood tests on me. It was all in there. It was blown away. And then the fact that I was saying I was Jesus, there was just nothing except wow to them, right? Then when I come back, and the fact of the matter is, I wasn't me. I was possessed, and God did come down in my life, saved me, and then somehow wherever I went, I don't know where I was. It's completely gone. I didn't see no light. I didn't see no darkness. I didn't know I wasn't here anymore. I had no clue that it was just gone. And the fact, she said they showed the picture of me. She said, "This is the best. Does this look like a suicide victim?" And so when they took a picture of me, I'm at the nurse's station, with a big smile, my arm laid out, and just chilled out, as calm as all get out. So the 10 days that I was there, what did I do? She said that I would go right on every round, whatever nurse was on duty. I'd follow that nurse around and go on, and I ministered. I talked to every individual that they were dealing with in the psychiatric hospital. I shared my story with the nurse and told her what was happening in my life, what had happened in my life, and what was going to happen in my life after this. So that the power behind that didn't hit me she shared it with me. Yeah, we laughed and joked. I grew up the way me and you grew up. I could believe in stuff like that, but I also know that I had the Bible crammed inside of me. I had, different personalities that I was dealing with, and I only imagined at that point, I'm nuts, so I just led that lady on through this. But I wasn't conscious. When I think about it now, the amount of drugs I had in my system, there's no way I could be alive. There's no way. The medical behind the doctors, they couldn't explain it. There's just no way. One doctor said, the only explanation I can have is that amount of Xanax offset that amount of amphetamine, the cocaine in there. And that doesn't make any sense. It's not scientifically possible for that to happen. So that story actually did not hit me until, the last time you were here, I was here, or the first time I was here, you're trying to pull this story out of me, and I couldn't focus enough and I got derailed left and right, so we just went past it, and we didn't talk about this. But it didn't really dawn on me, and I didn't experience this again until the last 6 months, when really my healing began coming more and more, and then it really began settling in that God literally came in and saved my life. Not just saving, there's a lot of people that have experiences where God saved their life, but I got possessed by Jesus. That's the only way I can look at it. I was possessed by the devil at one moment. My eyes rolled back in my head, and I'm killing myself. And then this man's getting a voice from God. Let him talk to your wife. He obeyed God, and the minute he obeyed God, boom, I came back.
Did he ever tell you what his wife said to you? You ever?
I believe. I can't remember what he said, but when he delivered that message to me and my family, he said, "I want to tell you guys that how you raised him and who he is. He has all the respect in the world for women." Because he said my wife freaked out. That's right, and just told him, "We got to call an ambulance, and you're scaring my husband," or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I of course I don't know any of this. This is something he's telling me, and I can't really remember clearly. I remember very clearly that he said, he looked at my mom and said, "The way you guys raised him, this man respects women." And I don't know. That's what when he said that, he said it impressed on him immediately. He had to come tell my family, this man respects women. And so whatever she said to me, I can imagine anybody's wife, knowing the fact that I'm getting ready to kill myself in the garage, I'm scaring her husband to death. She probably said, "Quit." Just something, whatever her voice was, it triggered. My eyes came down, so I went from I was gone, so I had to be possessed. That devil this is a demon that wants us to kill ourselves. Right. This is a spirit that we're fighting that wants to destroy not only us, but our family, our children, anyone that's alive inside our family. It destroys them.
Well, Jesus said it in John 10:10, "The thief cometh but to steal, kill, and to destroy. But I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly." So the enemy's using every tactic he can to get into people's mind, to destroy them mentally, spiritually, physically, financially, emotionally, any way that Satan can cause harm, disruption, and chaos in people's lives. That is his ultimate goal, and suicide is just one of those avenues. It's just one area that people allow him to come in and take control and accomplish what he wants to do in all of us.
Well, the lie was that I was meant to be dead, and I believed it. I believed I was meant to be dead. I couldn't see anything good coming out of this. I couldn't see anything good coming out of me being unconscious. I couldn't imagine it. So the lie was, I believed it, and it was a very impressive lie. It looked much greater, a much better future for my family and my kids and everything, to not have me walking around unconscious doing things I didn't want to do. And so that lie came to me, and I'm sure that's what the attack's going to be. He's a liar. He came to kill, steal, and destroy, but he's the father of lies. And so I'm really excited inside to finally. I've been God came back to me 2 years ago. I came back to God, or God came back to me. He's been with me the whole time. I came back to the knowledge of God and what he's doing in my life and gave myself back to him 2 years ago. 2 years ago, just 3 days ago, I was laying in the hospital, Mark, with this last suicide attempt. This happened. I had over 9 of them that first year in 2009. And then 8 years went by, and then 2016 till December of 2018, I had attempted suicide more times during that time than the first time. And not anyone in my family knew about it. I didn't tell anyone. I woke up in hospitals at Christmas twice. So it was after New Year's. I'd come to in the hospital 6, 7 days later, and here I was alive again, and I didn't share it with anyone. At those moments, I didn't tell nobody. So from those years, I attempted constantly. From the moment I woke up until I come conscious again, I would wake up and I would fight and do as much as I could to get myself to be unconscious, to be dead, whatever it was. And I didn't have enough. God blessed me in the sense of not having enough funds to be able to kill myself more than a couple times a month due to my check only being a certain amount because I was on disability. So I could only afford enough drugs to kill myself maybe twice a month. And that was what was happening. Literally, I'd get my paycheck and I'd get enough to at least give it one good shot, and then I would last through it, wake up in the hospital. And so this time I come to in Denver, where I met Fru, where Mom and Dad came back and saw that I was completely different, and I came out a new man after the last one. This arm, I almost lost this arm. This is where this surgery came from. This is all skin graft now that it wasn't even I wasn't supposed to have this arm after that. They said I was going to come. You're very high chance you're going to wake up without your left arm.
Yeah.
Then once I had it, they said you're going to only have 20% of that use of that arm. I played guitar on it from the moment I got out. I have complete 100% use of it. I have some pain in it every now and then, but it's a reminder of what God's done for me.
Amen.
And so I'm excited to now look at where I'm at now. And over the last 3 months ago, I had this clear vision of the Suicide Prevention Festival that I want to do that's going to bring awareness. I'm using music stars and athletic stars that have a lot of followers, a lot of people look up to them, that are going to bring in a crowd. And then what I really want to focus on are these 22 U.S. soldiers a day that are killing themselves. Because I remember in 1991 when I was in high school, graduating, and they put televisions in the schools for the first time. We watched the news every morning and watched the war. And from that moment, all of our history, we didn't have this. We saw things in magazines. It was months later. Now we're watching live war happen. So when 5, 6, 10 of our soldiers would die anywhere, it was immediate action. It came across the live television, and then boom, within a couple days at the most, you'd see soldiers going in and destroying that enemy that killed our men.
Right. And there's common people, men and women today that are watching this, and this message is resonating with them. And we want to tell you today, as we bring this to a close, that God is the answer. God has purpose for your life. God's hand is upon you. And if you will just reach out to us, speak to us in the comments, we'll connect with you and help you and pray for you. And I believe God's going to deliver you as David has seen this. You've seen his testimony. God bless you.